What's up, everyone? We are diving back into the multiverse today for another epic. What if Naruto became overpowered young and was forced to restore the Uzumaki clan? Naruto x Hinata x Sakura x Ino x Ten x Tamari x Enko x Tsunade x Other, a legendary Uzumaki harem Part 2. If you enjoy this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more fanfics like this. Now, let's dive right into the fanfic. A lone figure could be seen in the fields of Hokage training grounds. In a clearing, he was sitting quietly on a rock and appeared to be meditating. Such was his aura that birds and animals from around had started rounding up around him. There was nothing but tranquility in the atmosphere, along with the cold waning off due to the rising sun that marked the beginning of the day. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. Naruto had developed a strict timetable during those years, courtesy of Tsunade. His body had adapted to it and formed his own body clock. He found it very troublesome at first, as he had the habit of training and lazing off whenever he was home, but eventually he got used to it and now finds it useful in maintaining a balanced and healthy lifestyle. He had woken up at 5 o'clock sharp, although he did place an alarm just in case. After going through his daily routine, he readied himself up mentally and physically, after which he set off to the Hokage training grounds. These were private training grounds reserved for the Hokage alone, and no one else was allowed within, whosoever he or she might be. It was supposed to be surrounded by a barrier which was inaccessible for regular shinobi and invisible, and also blocked any vision from outside. He had been given entry access to the area for this day prior to the match so that he could scout the area and familiarize himself to the surroundings should he choose to. You know what they say, never miss any opportunity. He had put off his jacket on the sidelines and put on a dark-colored t-shirt for today. It would not only be helpful in blending with the surroundings should they enter the forest, but also would be easy to wash, if it would be left wearable by the end the match, that is. He had already double-checked and packed all the equipment he would need last night. He was pretty sure that he won't be able to defeat the Hokage even if hell broke loose, but he'd be damned if he didn't give his best. Time passed by quickly while he was meditating, and it wasn't long before the clock hit 10 to 7 when he sensed people coming towards him. He opened his eyes to find none other than the three who were supposed to be. Ohaya gozaimasu, Gigi. I've been waiting for you, Naruto said. Ohayou Naruto. I didn't expect you to come this early. The time decided between us was 7 o'clock, wasn't it? The Hokage said, although he half expected what Naruto's reply would be. Yes, but I managed to check the area before the match to expect what I'm getting into. And I must say, your training grounds are very clean and well maintained compared to the ones for the public. You can literally see garbage dumps forming there in various places if you look carefully, he said. Being a Hokage has its perks, he said with a slight smile, but changed his face to neutral, but it is also a bad sign that those open for the public are not being taken care of properly. I will do something about it. But that's for later, we have something else to do right now. Naruto understood the hint and grinned. He backed away to his original position a little away from the rock. It was a nice place to sit, didn't wanna destroy it. He looked around to see that the other two females had already taken seats at the branch of a nearby tree. Watching him look at them, they simply waved at him, following with a thumbs up for good luck. He needed it, badly, for nothing but luck could save him from his opponent should he get even a little bit serious. The Hokage was still wearing his white robes, which confused Naruto a little. Why does he still have those clothes on? Doesn't he need them in his office? They'd be dirty by the end of this fight, unless, damn it. He thinks that I won't even be able to touch him. You sure are getting cozy, Gigi. I have to get that thought out of him one way or the other. I may not be around his level, but still I'm no pushover, he thought. The Hokage was observant of his expression. Come on, Naruto. You have been training for quite some time now. Show me what you've got, how much skilled you've become, Hokage thought. Ready for it, Naruto? The Hokage asked. I couldn't be more ready ever than now, Naruto said. It's time. When this pebble hits the ground, the match will begin, he said as he flinged a pebble vertically high up in the air. The match wasn't official or anything, so they didn't need a referee. The rules are, there are no rules. A one-on-one match, anything and everything that you can put to use is allowed. I wish you good luck, said the Hokage. Naruto observed that the Hokage had at least got rid of the tobacco pipe that he always kept stuck in his mouth. He wasn't just considering it a leisurely stroll, after all. You better watch out, Gigi. You just might get surprised today, he said as the pebble hit the ground. He immediately smashed a few smoke bombs around the area which covered both of them. You blocked the advantage of sight, huh? But what will you do now? Surely not flee this early. There must be some other plan he's got, thought the Hokage. The Hokage first thought to leave the smoke by jumping away. But that would defeat the purpose. He just remained there in the smoke to humor him whatever the boy was about to do. Suddenly a fist made its way to his face. He effortlessly dodged it but was surprised as to how he was found so quickly. Surely Naruto couldn't just remember where was standing and attack blindly at that location, since he had already moved inside the smoke. Naruto smirked, starting a bout of punches and kicks on the man trying to land a hit. He did surprise him although the man was able to keep up with the boy quite easily. The Hokage ducked under a kick, grabbing a hold of his other leg and spun him around throwing the boy away. Thinking that he got Naruto out of balance, he thought of going on the offense this time. Man, he was going to find that it won't be that easy. He tried to move from the spot again only to find a paper bomb in front of his leg this time. He jumped behind instantly only to find another paper bomb about to detonate. Looking around, he saw a circle of paper bombs at the position he was initially standing as center of the circle. Damn it, how did the kid get around me this quickly? I didn't sense him at all. Am I getting that old, or is there something I'm missing? He thought as the paper bombs were at the brink of explosion. The spectators saw an explosion with which all the smokescreen was dispersed instantly replaced by the smoke of the explosion. Naruto had got his footing back and smirked as he saw the explosion. I know this was a surprise even for you. So you now at least have to remove those Hokage robes. Must be dirtier than the spectators' footwear by now, he shouted. However, his hopes weren't high for too long as he saw a protective earth barrier around him. As the barrier receded back into the ground, the Hokage retorted back. Earth style. Rock shelter. Normally he didn't announce the name every time he used a jutsu, but this could also be a training round for Naruto so he decided to tell him. He added, it's not that easy to land a hit on me. You would have to do far better than that. But you have a point. I won't be able to get to my office in clean robes if it goes on like this. You are full of surprises after all. Trust me, this isn't the only surprise you will get today, Naruto smirked. Hee, so care to tell me how we're able to find me so efficiently? And I couldn't sense your presence at all, the Hokage asked as he took off the robes aside to reveal his usual black battle armor. This was a test to just show his skills in battle so there was no need to keep anything secret anyways. He decided to explain. Well, you see, I am a sensory type. He conveyed the concept in a brief manner. What? Interesting, but even more of an interesting fact is that I kept my chakra signature to the minimum just in case. Not to mention that I can detect at least the presence of sensory types no matter how small or how well they hide it, Hiruzen said. Both of them had got closer to the spectators during the fight. Tsunade intervened before Naruto could say further. You see, Sarutobi-sensei, this is his specialty. He is one of the best sensors out there. It goes without saying that he can keep his chakra well hidden. Even the tiniest amount of chakra can be detected by him. If that was not enough, there is a special technique that he created, from which hiding is virtually impossible, unless of course, you're dead, she said. Yes, and on top of that, I can sense other people's emotions when my own are elevated. I'm not able to control it by will, at least not until yet, Naruto added. We suspect that it might be an effect of the Kyuubi sealed within him, as I don't know of any person who possesses the same abilities. Although there was one who could. Mito Uzumaki, my grandmother, she said. All in due time. We just have to have patience and keep honing our skills. Well, I was actually curious about the technique you mentioned. I would like to test it out. An old man like me doesn't get the opportunity to see these kinds of new things lately. Your objective is to find me in 2 minutes. I'll be waiting. The Hokage said as he shunshined away. 2 minutes. More like 10 seconds. Naruto said as he prepared his technique. He was standing straight with eyes closed and concentrating his chakra around his feet and torso. A wave of chakra was released simultaneously into the ground as well as the atmosphere. The Hokage was well hidden between the branches and leaves of a tree and kept his chakra as close to zero as he could. He had a clear view of what Naruto was doing. He could see that Naruto was concentrating his chakra around his body for some reason but couldn't understand why. Suddenly, he felt a slight disturbance in his chakra but it vanished as soon as it appeared. Did he do something? A genjutsu? No, I can't feel anything like that. But what was that just now? He thought. Naruto, on the other hand, had an all-knowing smirk with an expression that could have been heard shouting, "Found you." Before Hiruzen could contemplate and analyze the technique further, he heard Naruto at full volume. Chakra resonance. Heightened perception. And Naruto threw a kunai at him with good precision which had an explosive tag tied to it. He was forced to jump out in the open again face to face with the boy. Naruto was proudly grinning upon completing the task he was given. You managed to do it. I wasn't expecting to be found this easily. Surely this is some good technique you've got there. Care to enlighten me? Hiruzen asked with a smile. Yes, sure. It is started with concentration of chakra at the sole of my feet and around my body. But I figure you sense that much. Naruto said, to which Hiruzen nodded. After that I release that chakra wave into the ground and around the surroundings simultaneously. Although it requires more chakra above in the air than in the ground since the waves travel faster in the ground requiring less intensity. It is basically the same concept of sound traveling at different speed in different media. So leaving that aside, all I have to do is sense that chakra disturbance in the wave I released whenever it collides or reacts with any other chakra. The advantage is that I don't have to perceive someone else's chakra but only sense distortion in my own, which is comparably quite easy. It gives me an incredibly high perception, since I'm a sensory ninja. It can be understood through the same principle that bats use, that is, ultrasound. It reverberates whenever it strikes an object and the bat can sense the hurdle or the prey, he explained. Hiruzen was in awe. He never thought that a mere child could devise such a handy technique which could turn the tide in a battle. Hell, a sneak attack would be completely foiled against anyone who wields this. Ingenious, indeed. If this boy is so smart at such a young age, he might be a great asset to Konoha in the future. He certainly took after you in terms of brains, Lord Fourth, he thought, but still managed to keep the surprise hidden. That is quite a technique, my boy. And the way you explained it shows that you have studied a lot of things other than only ninja arts as well, Hiruzen said with a smile. Yes, what can I say? I like to read. It allows us to gain knowledge and experience we can never attain in our whole life with practical experience alone. And to be honest, I kinda got the idea of this jutsu from the ultrasound phenomenon used by the bats. So it's not that original. But I thought I could incorporate it into my style, since I'm a sensor and all, Naruto said. That is good and all, but we're getting bored here. We don't have all day. Get the action back in the game, Tsunade shouted. Well, she's right. Enough talking, let's get back to where we were, Hokage said. You bet I will. Naruto said as he readied up two kunai in his hands. He dashed up to the Hokage and started attacking him repeatedly. The Hokage didn't even have to break a sweat in effortlessly dodging the attacks. Sure, he may have talent, but it's a long way of hardship to transform that into skill. He dodged a straight jab by stepping sideways and grabbed Naruto's hand, and twisted it counterclockwise, which made him release the kunai in his left. Naruto flipped sideways and brought his right hand holding another kunai from above. Before he could connect, a kick in the gut sent Naruto flying, but he flipped and gained footing quickly. Never give the enemy an opportunity to make you lose your balance. Once you're in his reach, one fatal blow would end the fight, Hiruzen explained. Naruto was annoyed that one of his weapons was so easily snatched from him. The Hokage, as if he could read his mind, provoked him further. Come on, can't fight with a single one. Want this back? Take it if you can, he said. Naruto got irritated further and charged at him. He started slashing rather aggressively at the man in hopes of landing a hit on him. His attacks weren't following any pattern. They were just random slashes and quite easy to read. The Hokage ducked under a horizontal blow and pinned the kunai at his neck. Naruto was unable to react quickly and stood still while closing his eyes. 2 suggestions. The first is to never give yourself into your own emotions during a fight. Stay calm and collected whatever the situation may be. Second, never close your eyes during a battle. Hiruzen said as he hit the kunai in Naruto's hand with his own, which flew a few yards back. Now go back, and come at me properly this time, he added. Naruto was still not calm enough but kept himself level-headed this time. He dashed at the Hokage but now striked at the openings he could find. Although not good enough, he was better than before. The Hokage noticed something odd during his strikes, but decided to save it for later, keeping in the back of his mind. Having played the defensive long enough, he decided to go on the offensive. Naruto was pushed to the defensive almost immediately, and he could barely manage to block the blows, although a few were getting to him. He was among the trees before he knew it. He had been pushed back and defeated so crazily that he was forced to retreat. A few shuriken made their way onto him, so he turned upside down on the branch, barely avoiding them. Oh, so you already have learned the tree walking exercise. Although I should have expected it by now, Hiruzen said as he landed on the next branch. Naruto's mind was racing in the tense situation as he tried to figure out a plan to somehow counterattack. He forced chakra through his feet in a burst to jump away while simultaneously threw several paper bomb-laced kunai towards the Hokage. They exploded while coming in the range of the Hokage so that he was pushed back. Naruto had managed to get out of sight from direct line of sight, at least for the time being. He was hiding in some bushes while formulating a possibly viable plan. Meanwhile, the Hokage was in the search but didn't seem to have any luck so far. Tsunade wasn't kidding when she said that he's a natural at sensing chakra. He can make his chakra flow in such a way and quantity that it can't be sensed too. This kid is not half bad, he thought. A while later he found Naruto between some trees trying to put an explosive tag around a kunai. He landed a few feet in front of him and threw some shuriken at him. To his surprise, the shuriken flew right through him. A clone, huh, nice going. But now what? He thought. He didn't get more time to ponder as several ninja wires laced with explosive tags surrounded the trees around him. He expected another round of explosive kunai or shuriken but was surprised to see a barrage of Senbon needles coming around him from above. An explosive tag wall which restricts my movements. But why switch to Senbon needles? Kunai are designed for higher damage, while Senbon are designed for precision. So why would he, unless, damn it Tsunade, now I understand. The Hokage thought, instantaneously alarmed. He didn't have much time to react before the Senbon would hit him. It wasn't the damage which the Senbon would do that worried him, it was the substance coated on it. Poison. The needles were almost upon him and he couldn't dodge the attack on either side. Earth style. Rock shelter, was the only thing heard before a wall of earth covered him. As the semicircular dome was complete, all the poison-laced Senbon needles struck it from all the sides except from directly above. At the highest point of the tallest tree around, Naruto was sitting with a huge smirk, as if he had already won the match. You fell for it, Gigi. Now you have no way out. And I can definitely sense you in there, he said with a huge grin. He jumped upwards as high as he could using chakra under his feet as boost and then vertically aligned himself with the opening on the top of the dome where the Senbon weren't stuck. Clenching his fist tightly, he flew down with the effect of gravity at a high speed. This time, you can't escape. So, this round is as good as mine, he shouted as the Hokage was still sensed by him inside the wall. The impact was exponentially greater than expected, as the dome was shattered within a fraction of a second and the punch went straight through the wall, upon the man and onto the ground which was shattered too around the whole area uprooting many of the trees. The explosives around the area detonated with the disturbance and the debris was launched into all directions. Few of them hit Naruto as well although he managed to avoid the larger ones. Well, collateral damage was expected in the plan, but at least he managed to land a solid hit on the Hokage. Or did he? As he neared the Hokage, he noticed that there was no movement at all. Gigi, are you alright? I thought that you'd be able to handle it so I figured I could use full power. Hey, say something please. You're making me worried. Naruto said with concern but neared him with caution. Having reached near enough, he saw something that he definitely didn't expect. Damn it! After all that work, why am I not able to land a single hit on him? He shouted to nobody. The figure supposed to be the Hokage was slowly dissolving into the ground like mud. It also revealed a big poster on which was written, "Nice try, but not enough. Meet me back at the ground." Smiley face. Under which were a few explosive seals stuck. Wait, what the he? As he had already started retreating from the spot but not in time as the seals exploded, throwing Naruto away from the shockwave. Scene break. The explosion had given Naruto various bruises and small burns but managed to avoid any major injury. As Naruto was heading back to the ground, he couldn't help but stop thinking. How did he escape like that? I sensed him inside. And was it a clone all along? Or did he make it after I trapped him? Or maybe when he was inside that dome? Yes, that's it. He switched himself with a mud clone inside and fled into the ground. Damn, I was too preoccupied with sensing him in the dome that I never thought to also look in the ground specifically. I should have used the resonance technique. Man, I feel so dumb right now. Now he also knows about another ability of mine without having any damage at all. Scene break. Back at the ground, Naruto appeared in a body flicker in a few moments. Look who decided to come back. I was wondering how long you'd take. Hiruzen taunted him. Naruto was trying to suppress his irritation since this was a lesson he had been given not long ago. Never let your emotions control you. With that, he threw a lot of shuriken towards the Hokage. The Hokage dodged all of them except one which he caught between his fingers. He threw it back at Naruto with a high speed while conveying in a neutral voice. Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu. The one shuriken multiplied exponentially into tens or maybe hundreds of shuriken which made way towards Naruto. Not being able to dodge in time, he crossed his forearms in front of him and waited for the inevitable. In an instant he felt as if his entire body was being sliced into hundreds of pieces. While the cuts were shallow, the sheer number of them overcame the tolerance of pain that he had. He fell to the ground trying to maintain consciousness after the sudden overload of pain that swept in his brain. I'm sorry, I guess I went overboard a little, Hiruzen said with concern. Naruto heard the words of sympathy and mentally smacked himself. No, this isn't over. Today I will show them that I am not weak. All the training and hard work wasn't for nothing. I'm not finished. Definitely not. He thought as he forcibly moved his body and started to stand up. Bring it, the fight isn't over yet. Far from it. Naruto said as he gripped a kunai and once again charged towards the old fellow. Once down for the count but not ready to give up, huh? I like the attitude, the determination to not give up, the Hokage thought. Hiruzen weaved a few hand signs and announced the jutsu he was about to use. Earth style. Earth flow river. Suddenly Naruto was caught in a mudslide-like flow that erupted from nowhere in the ground. He fell into it and seemed to be washed away before he turned into a wooden log. Ah, he substituted himself. Right in time. Hiruzen thought. Naruto appeared from above and striked him with a kunai which he easily sidestepped. But Naruto kept up a constant barrage of slashes and kicks keeping the Hokage on his toes. He briskly lunged at him trying to stab him in the gut but Hiruzen turned sideways. Quickly changing the kunai in his hand into a reverse grip, he tried to slash the kunai horizontally to land a hit. The Hokage grabbed his forearm with the left hand. Considering it an opportunity, Naruto flipped trying to kick him from above, taking advantage of his short stature leading to a shorter and faster curve. The Hokage grabbed his foot with the right hand but was pushed down a little as it was chakra enhanced, although not very much since Naruto had used much of it in the earth-shattering punch in the forest. He brought down another leg on the right forearm, pushing the Hokage in a S-couched position so he couldn't use his legs to defend. Naruto grabbed the forearm of Hiruzen's left hand with which he was holding Naruto's other hand. At the moment, nobody had landed a hit on another but Naruto had a final trump card up his sleeve. On the hand with which he had grabbed the Hokage's forearm, a blue chakra appeared and suddenly Hiruzen flinched in pain, releasing the grip on Naruto's other hand. With the grip gone, Naruto dropped the kunai and slitted his hand with the same blue coating across Hiruzen's own, which resulted in further intensification of the pain now in the palm which was already in his forearm. With his left arm which held Naruto's leg, he swung Naruto and hit him hard on the ground. With the impact, Naruto cried out in pain and stayed there. Hiruzen backed off a bit and checked his left arm. There was no visible injury yet the pain was there. Naruto, having a satisfactory smile on his face and his eyes closed, said only one sentence. Finally, Chakra no Mesu, success. What didn't you teach him, Tsunade? And how did he learn all that? Being able to use that means he's already quite well versed with medical ninjutsu. I've seen Chunin who aren't able to do a fraction of that. Hell, no ordinary Junin can do that either. This kid is something else indeed. Hiruzen thought. Naruto was totally exhausted, having used up much of his chakra in the last move and was too battered up to get back up again. I just hope this wasn't a damn clone again, he thought as he drifted off towards unconsciousness after hearing one final sentence from the Hokage. Alright, I guess that's enough for today. Time skip. He woke up hearing a few muffled sounds from a close distance. Did you have to go that hard in him, sensei? He's just a child. Hee. I'm sorry. Although you taught him how to use that inhuman strength of yours, so it wasn't that much of a child's play, but yeah. Guess I became too involved in the battle. It won't happen again. I'm definitely not letting you battle him again. Yesterday I wasn't sure, so I gave you the benefit of the doubt. But now I am. What if you get too involved in the battle again? Who was the one preaching about not letting your emotions get in the way, huh? Well, the loud one was Tsunade, alright. And the other one was her teacher, although the scene doesn't make one believe so. Still, nobody could retort when an angry woman was speaking in front of him. Tsunade was healing the internal injury in his hand and forearm while lecturing him at the same time. The Hokage had already put the white robe back on. Naruto looked up to see Shizune healing his injuries while looking at the both of them with a concerned look. After all, watching your master arguing, lecturing her sensei isn't the best of entertainment someone can expect. Naruto sat upright with a little help from Shizune, and at the same time the Hokage's hand was also patched up so the bickering of the lady had ceased. I've healed the damaged muscles and tendons the best I could. Now just make sure to not strain the hand too much for the day and you'll be alright by tomorrow, was the last statement from Tsunade before all the attention turned to Naruto. Finally up at last, huh? Tsunade smiled. Even after traveling with her for 3 years, he still couldn't understand how a woman's attitude could change in a moment. But he decided to quit looking for an answer long ago. One could doubt that would Kami himself be able to answer this or not. Anyways, he decided to answer. Yes, thanks to Shizune Ne-chan. I feel completely fine now, except for being tired, he said with a thumbs up. Well, it was more entertaining than I imagined, Tsunade said and then added with squinted eyes, so how was it, Sarutobi-sensei? Did you have your fun? Hiruzen rolled his eyes at the constant verbal attack of his former apprentice, but it went unnoticed due to the hat covering his face in its shadow. Ahem, yeah, I am pleased to see that Naruto has progressed so far. Especially the part where he could use super strength and chakra scalpel. Only a person who has command over delicate chakra control and medical ninjutsu can pull off these tricks. Hiruzen said and turned to Naruto, you are fit to be a shinobi at this age, that I can guarantee. But still, there's no hurry, we are in a time of peace. Continue training yourself, and become even more stronger. You'll be an exceptional ninja by the time you put on a leaf headband. And I have no doubts that you will become a Hokage worthy of his title should you thrive hard to achieve the goal, the Hokage said with a smile which reflected nothing but admiration and pride. Naruto jumped up in enthusiasm only to fall on his back due to the fatigue. He was grinning and wincing at the same time, it was weird expression but hilarious nonetheless. That's the other thing Naruto's exceptionally good at. You already know that his sensory skills are beyond great. But now get a load of this, his chakra control is exceptionally incredible as well. And that's quite something since large chakra reserves usually tend to mess up the user's control. Normally people with small chakra reserves are able to control their chakra flow well. It took me a lot of time to learn medical ninjutsu thoroughly and to get where I am because of this reason, Tsunade said. After a pause, she added, but watching Naruto, I knew he could do even better than me, and quicker, with the right guidance. Flawless chakra control over a large amount of chakra is basically a gift of nature not everyone is blessed with. I trained him hard in the skills of medical ninjutsu and forced it into him as much as I could. I didn't think at first that it could be possible, but gradually he turned out to get quite skilled at it. Although it was something he didn't learn just because of his curiosity or natural interest in the subject but due to his empathy towards others. Looking back, it was an interesting story in itself. As she reminisced. Flashback. Hey Naruto, you can go play with Tauntaun if you want to. But don't wander away too far and come back on time. We also have to continue your taijutsu and target practice, said Shizune in an ordering voice just like a teacher orders her students. Ah, taijutsu is okay, but can't we do that target practice training with kunai or shuriken? They look way more cooler than those needles of yours. Naruto pouted. We'll get to that later. And just you remember that Senbon needles are much more precise on target compared to the other ranged weapons. Not to mention that being relatively small in size, you can carry more of them around in comparison to kunai, Shizune lectured. Yeah, okay. Come on Tauntaun, let's not waste our precious break time hearing Shizune Nei-chan's lectures, said Naruto as he ran away holding the pet. Tsunade was sitting nearby reading another one of her books related to medicine. She was also quietly observing both of her other companions and smiled widely at the conversations of the pair. She was always reminded of her younger brother Nawaki when she saw him. Always outspoken, overenthusiastic and sometimes a knucklehead. Having Naruto with them had made both of the women more responsible. Tsunade minimized her drinking habits quite a lot, although the gambling was still not out of her coverage yet. Tsunade had focused more on being a doctor and helping out people through their journey while training and taking care of Naruto. She didn't pamper him as if she was his mother since he would grow too attached to them. She was initially irritated on being called Ba-chan since she wasn't that age even in reality, and definitely not while she had her young appearance on, which was permanent but let it slide, not being too strict with him. The goal was to teach him the importance of social relations like friends and family in one's life. Shizune was dutiful as her assistant and helped her in whichever way she could. Although she was happy that he called her Nei-chan and not aunt or something. Naruto sprinted off to play tag with Tauntaun since hide and seek was totally a useless game against the pig as it could detect faint scents over wide areas. It was Naruto's turn to catch Tauntaun as he ran into some woods after counting to 10, hoping to find where the pig was hiding since it didn't have the ability to run as fast as Naruto could. Ironically, Naruto could outrun the pig but wasn't able to hide or rest due to being spotted easily when he was running away. Looking around the trees for Tauntaun, he heard an animal voice which sounded like a bird shrieking in desperation. A little scared in the fear of encountering a wild beast, he was hesitant at first, but made up his mind with an uneven combination of courage and curiosity to check it out. He looked crouching through the bushes warily to what lied on the opposite side. The guess proved true enough, as there lied a broken nest along with a bird whose left wing was bleeding profusely. Not perceived to be a lot visually, but because of the fact that there isn't much blood as humans in the first place, it was an alarming sign. He delved into the thought as to how the bird ended up in the seeming condition in the first place, but shoved the thought aside as the bird looked not too far from the cold hands of death. Although he instinctively crouched back down due to his sixth sense indicating the presence of an unknown danger around. True enough, he spotted a snake crawling its way down the tree slowly with minimal visible movement towards its prey. The snake was too close to the bird now, so Naruto couldn't risk rushing off with the bird carelessly. Somehow the bird in the nest had survived the first attack of the predator, but it was now about to be finished. Although he felt bad for interfering with nature, which beautifully contained in itself an endless food cycle with numerous food chains interlocking together, he couldn't help but sympathize with the bird in that condition. He resolved to save the bird at any cost to the best of his abilities. Slowly pulling out a kunai from his pouch, he readied himself to hit the snake in the head by performing a precise throw. Although he was confident enough about hitting a bullseye at a stationary target, he didn't have much experience in moving targets yet. What was it? What was it again? Yeah, I remember now. Red touches yellow, kills a fellow. Red touches black, safe for Jack. He whispered to nobody. Cursing his luck, he examined the stripes to find that the snake was poisonous indeed. Please don't tell me afterwards that it's for coral snakes or something like that. It's just for adding an interesting line. Same thing about how Jack came to be a name in Narutoverse. Peace. Damn it, now I can't risk any chance of failure. The snake will be guarded if I miss, and I can't take out the possibility that it could attack me suddenly, Naruto thought out loud. The possibility of the bird making it out alive thinned even more at the realization. The snake crawled a little quicker on touching the ground at the sight of its prey. As it reached the spot, the bifid tongue slipped out making a hissing sound. It raised its head upwards and then backwards in order to jerk in front with a high speed, not leaving any chance to let its prey flee, not that it was in any condition to do so anyways. But predatory instincts don't think that deep. Naruto captured that very moment to launch the kunai he patiently kept ready in his hand as the head of the snake stopped moving backwards now in order to propel itself forward. Before it could do so, the kunai hit dead on and the snake was sent flying before it hit a tree trunk hanging lifelessly. Naruto sped towards the bird, picking it up gently before racing off as fast as he could to the only one he thought could save the creature, if it could be saved. Boy, he sure hopes so. Scene break and time skip. Ba-chan, please help. Tsunade looked up suddenly with concern, having heard Naruto's cry for help. Before she could leave to find him, although, Naruto himself came running to her with an injured bird in his hands. She was relieved that Naruto wasn't in any danger himself, but also alerted that the bird was in no good condition. Please, Ba-chan, can you heal it? I don't want this bird to die of the injuries. Naruto asked, sympathy overflowing out in his voice. I'm not a veterinary doctor, Naruto. This is not an area I specialize in, Tsunade said, but looking at the sadness that built up in those sky blue eyes of his, she added, but I'm not totally unfamiliar either. I'll see what I can do, but no guarantees. Now lay it down here. Naruto did as instructed and she placed her hand over the bird and a green glow covered it. She frowned upon realizing that the problem was deeper than originally imagined. Shizune had also hurried to them after she heard Naruto shout while she was preparing lunch. Naruto, it's not just the wound that we have to worry about, there's also something else, Tsunade told him. Yeah, poison, Naruto simply stated. Tsunade on the other hand was more than surprised and asked, exactly, but how do you know that? Because I killed the snake that was about to eat it, which was poisonous due to the pattern of stripes on its scales, he stated again in a matter-of-factly tone. You what? Tsunade gasped and shouted, momentarily losing her focus on healing the bird. Sensing that he could be in real trouble soon, he tried to explain how he had felt sorry for the bird and wanted to help it. He got a stern reply that it wasn't a good call and that will be reprimanded later, to which he silently nodded. Tsunade resumed back to healing the bird by extracting the poison and stopping the bleeding. Well, it was a good decision studying the anatomy of birds, Tsunade thought as she recollected how she had once read about birds in case a carrier messenger bird was injured and the need was urgent to deliver a message. She left the patching up for Shizune to do while demanding an explanation from Naruto instantly. Not pleased by his actions but still admiring the boy for his courage, she decided to let the matter go with some minor punishment, giving an indirect message that another reckless behavior won't be tolerated in the future. As the bird was fully patched up, it was put into a basket and left to recuperate. It had left consciousness midway when Naruto brought it back. Will it be okay, Ba-chan? He asked. I've extracted the poison completely, so that's not something to worry about. Although, the blood loss was significant. It's up to the state of the bird's body to see whether it can survive or not, she stated, not to fill any false hopes into the child. I understand. I'll wait for the bird to heal patiently, Naruto replied calmly, although he was worried. An idea popping to his mind, he said, Hey Ba-chan, can I ask you something? Sure, go on, she replied. I also want to learn the art of medical ninjutsu. Although I did manage to kill the snake, it would have been for nothing if the bird had died. If similarly someone was injured, and even if I defeat the enemy in battle, what good will it be if he or she dies? Naruto said. Tsunade didn't immediately erupt into laughter at the request, solely for the reason that there was complete sincerity in his words as well as in his eyes. That's exactly what I thought back then when I appealed to the Hokage to introduce medical ninjas in the team formations during the war. He's thinking in the right direction, at least. But, she thought, medical ninjutsu is not regular training, Naruto. It requires immense chakra control. It is an entirely different art which requires not only continuous training in delicate flow and control of chakra in someone else's body but also the deep knowledge and understanding of the various processes of the human body. A child your age isn't expected to learn all that anyways. Better to keep up your training for now, Tsunade explained. But I can do it. Please give me a chance. I'll do anything to prove it, he asked with a slight desperation. Looking at his stubbornness, she said, fine. We'll go with the tree climbing exercise. But Lady Tsunade, isn't it too early to do that? He recently learned how to infuse chakra but we've never tested it before. Going directly to that won't end up doing any good for him, I suppose, Shizune said with concern as she had expected Tsunade to downright reject his request. That is exactly the point. Words don't seem to pass through his thick skull, hopefully the lesson does. Also hopefully the wounds don't, she told Shizune as she eyed the boy. One more thing, you have 1 hour to do it, Tsunade added. That's impossible. It would take at least a few days even if he could possibly do that all. Please reconsider, my lady, Shizune said. I know, but we don't have decades to teach him. If he can't keep up with the pace, might as well forget it. Let's go, we'll start after lunch, Tsunade scoffed. Shizune was against the idea but knew that her master had a fair point. It takes a lot of effort to learn the techniques, not to mention the hardcore study one has to do to grasp the functioning of the complex mysteries of the human body. Naruto was silently listening to the conversation but on the inside he had only one thing in mind, the task given to him in order to prove that he was able and willing to work hard. Naruto simply walked to a tree and focused on getting his chakra gathered up in his feet. He had asked sometime before about how Shizune walked up a tree without falling off like that to get some special leaves for a medicine. He had asked her to teach that to him but she shrugged it off, telling him he had lots of things to learn before coming to that. Naruto pouted but did not press the matter further as Shizune could complain his disobedience to Tsunade and that woman was someone nobody wanted to tick off. He put his right leg keeping it straight on the trunk and focused the proper amount of chakra it would take to pull his whole body weight attached to the tree. Once achieved, he lifted the second leg and divided the amount of chakra between both his legs as the second one hit the trunk. Once again diverting the flow to one leg, this time the left one, he took a step carefully. Carefully balancing the amount of chakra in his feet in a stepwise fashion constantly he reached the lowest branch and lied on it to rest a little before going further. The tricky part was that if he didn't divide the chakra when on both feet, there was too much chakra and he would be pushed away. On the other hand, if when on one feet he didn't have enough chakra to stick, he'd simply lose the grip slipping straight down. Not easy though, he thought about why both of them were making a fuss over it. A little practice and he'd get it subconsciously after that. The scenario with the spectators was entirely different. Both Tsunade and Shizune had their jaws dropped in bewilderment as they couldn't believe their eyes. How in the freaking hell is this boy able to perform the trick with such ease? Exclamation mark. This was the only thought that was currently revolving in their heads over and over again. On the other hand, up above on the tree Naruto saw the two women who were looking like they had seen a ghost. Before going to ask what happened, he decided to complete the exercise first. Slowly and steadily, he walked up to the top of the tree with each step being less tougher to handle than the previous one. He felt the movement slowly being etched into his muscle memory. Once he reached the top, he waved down to the ladies below. I guess Shizune, I was wrong after all. This is not normal, to say the least. I take my words back, he is definitely up for the job, Tsunade said, having seen Naruto acing the test in one attempt rather than the 1 hour he was given. Shizune, being equally flabbergasted, nodded in agreement saying, me too, my lady, me too. Naruto, upon descending the tree, asked the woman about how well he did in the exercise. That was exceptionally well done, Naruto. I have no doubt you'll be able to learn medical ninjutsu if you work hard enough, Tsunade replied, praising the boy although not showing the utter astonishment that was present on her face a few moments ago. Naruto grinned widely at the accomplishment that now allowed him to learn what he wanted. Tsunade was curious about something, so she crouched in front of Naruto and moved her hand around Naruto's body and was left wide-eyed. Now she understood part of why Naruto's chakra control was good. Before being questioned, although, she diverted the topic for the time being. Come on, Naruto. Shizune has prepared the lunch, so first we're going to eat it and then we'll move on to the water walking exercise, Tsunade said. Yes, I'll be keeping the basket along with our other stuff for the bird to rest or if any other complication occurs. You guys go on ahead and start eating, I'll join you soon. By the way, Naruto, aren't we forgetting something? Shizune said. Huh, what? Naruto said before realization hit him and he mentally facepalmed. Where's Taunton? Both the women finished. Flashback over. The third Hokage was amazed to hear Tsunade and how Naruto was proving to be a genius of his own kind. But remembering that talent without hard work is just a blunt knife no matter how strong its metal be, he justified the quote by talking to him. Although you have proved to be good at ninja skills, Naruto, it goes without saying that your techniques aren't refined yet. Not that I'd expect something like that from someone your age, but if you wish I can help you in doing that, Hiruzen said. Shizune said with a concerned voice, apologies for the interruption, Hokage-sama, but I think Naruto has had enough of training for someone his age. Probably it would be good if he spends time like a normal kid relaxing and starts the training next year at the academy. It was only an offer, of course. Naruto has the choice to accept or decline as per his own wishes. I am merely making sure that he doesn't regret missing an opportunity later on. Unlike in the times of war, shinobi aren't required to be sent out in the battlefield without proper training. So there is no pressure of any kind, but one must always be prepared, Hiruzen replied calmly. Tsunade nodded in acceptance, that she would go on with whatever Naruto chose to do. Naruto pondered over it for a few seconds and then slowly stood up this time. He clenched his right palm into a fist and slammed it into the palm of his left hand in front of him and declared, if I dream to be Hokage, then there's no time to relax. Lots of shinobi out there are hundreds of times stronger than me and working a lot harder too. I won't give myself any excuse to be left behind. And how can I expect to be Hokage when I don't push myself harder than the others? I will continue to work hard until the day you hand that hat over to me yourself, Gigi, with a profound determination in his azure eyes. The Hokage grinned contentedly looking at the young boy in front of him and thought, looks like the will of fire burns brightly within the future of Konoha too. Tsunade merely smiled expecting the reaction since she had got to know him very well during the last few years. Shizune still wasn't confident of the decision but respected the opinion of her sensei and her sensei's sensei. After all, they were far more knowledgeable and experienced. So she kept her mouth shut and silently hoped that Naruto be well whatever he did. Then it's decided. You will be trained in the arts of the shinobi under proper guidance. Remember well, that the path from here is only going to be tougher. And you will not get a chance to back out. But when you're finished, I'm sure that you will be proud of yourself. To endure whatever hardships are thrown on your way and overcome them, is what it means to be a true ninja, the Hokage spoke wisely. Yeah, I'm ready. I will never back on my word, Dadbeo, Naruto stated. Calm down, kid. It's not like you're gonna train right now. Tsunade smacked him. Naruto blinked and rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Sensei, you didn't tell us who is going to be his instructor. I don't know many people around here who'd be willing to train him and be trusted enough to keep it confidential. Tsunade asked, although she imagined it would probably be the Anbu that had been close to the boy's father in the past. Oh, I thought that you trusted me enough to handle this, Tsunade, the Hokage said with a glint of mischief in his eyes. No, it's not that. I was just a little concerned, nothing else. I'm sure you'll find someone, Tsunade said, but stopped at the growing smirk that was being kept painfully small by the Hokage. Suddenly understanding what the Hokage meant by his statement actually and mentally scolding herself for not getting the pun, she said half shocked, you don't mean to say. Hiruzen started laughing knowing that Tsunade had understood and said, you're right. I will be training him from now on until he is admitted in the academy. Shizune as usual was the most shocked and said, but Lord Hokage, why would you personally go to such lengths? And not to mention, how will you have time to train him? Why not assign him an instructor? Tsunade didn't say anything after Shizun's question but was actually curious herself. The truth is I feel I have failed one of my students. And that I want to have one more chance of correcting my mistake but I can't. The least I can do to lessen the burden on my heart is to not regret having lost one of the best opportunities I have got. Until yesterday, I didn't plan to test you myself. And I won't be honest if I didn't say that I haven't had any prior plan on making you my student. You will be able to grow up into a fine young shinobi that I already told you. I just want to contribute my part, he said as he gave a weak smile. Tsunade knew who he was talking about and thought of telling him that it wasn't his fault in the least, but decided to not engage deep into that particular topic. Great. Lessons from the Hokage himself, Naruto said as he grinned. Although don't think I'll go easy. I was far from my actual power fighting you today, here is an added. Naruto nodded nonchalantly, still lost in his own happiness. Okay. So it's decided. I'll be training him and improving his skills from now on until academy begins. We'll start in these very grounds 7 days from now, since I'll also have to make adjustments in office routine, not to mention filtering some paperwork. I'll tell you the rest of the schedule when we meet here next. Also, I'll have you arrange a pass so that you can cross this barrier without permission every time. Although I suggest that you train somewhere else when you're alone, since someone else being here without myself is bound to arise unwanted suspicion, which is the last thing we need. It also goes without saying that you won't tell anyone about this training. People are bound to get on my back even if someone gets the slightest hint of what's going on inside here, Hiruzen said. Yes sir, understood. Naruto replied, paying full attention, now forming a salute which seemed comedic. There was a slight pause, after which Tsunade decided to speak. Now that everything is settled and done, we'll be leaving immediately. I entrust Naruto's training to you, sensei. And Naruto, take care of yourself. Our stuff has already been sent to the gates, so it's departure time, Tsunade declared. Naruto knew that he had to part ways with the duo Oink Oink. Ahem, trio, today, but was still saddened that he now had to live alone again. Not that he felt alone again from inside, it's just that he had been so accustomed to being with them all these years that now it seemed a little hard to let go. Tsunade saw him come closer with his head drawn down and the bangs of his hair covering his eyes. He clutched his arms around the waist of the woman and silently stood there. Everyone knew what the emotions were and patiently let him be. Tsunade felt him sobbing lightly and put her arms beneath and over his head to give some courage to him as well as herself. She decided to talk before she gave into her own emotions of being distanced from him as she found a lump forming in her throat. Tsunade said while rubbing her hand over his hair, Now, Naruto, there's no need to be sad. We're just going on another journey as usual. I also have my responsibilities as a doctor, right? In the meantime, I know that you will keep working hard. Don't overexert yourself though. Health is of the utmost importance. So take your rest and recuperation as a part of training too. Spend your money wisely. If you have any kind of problems, tell them to Hokage-sama, and keep in touch with me or I'll come here just to smack you for that. As she chuckled. She was a little sad as he let go of her, but when she saw his face with a bright smile, all the worry went away. I'm sorry. I understand. I'll make sure to keep in touch. I'm confident that the next time I see you, I'll be much stronger, just you watch. And take care of yourself too. I'll miss you very much, he said. He then walked to the other two and hugged them tightly with a happy face and told them that he'll be fine, so no need to worry. Shizune and Tonton were also happy now, and with that they took their leave and said goodbyes. Naruto left for his home after that and the others headed to the village gates. Scene break and time skip. Naruto felt like his home was somewhere on the other side of the planet. The walk was extremely tiring as the fatigue hadn't worn out yet. Added to the fact that he had to be careful not to be seen around the parts, he had to put on a hinge. Finally reaching his door, he released the hinge. Even pushing chakra into the seal seemed like his soul was being soused out. He quickly undressed to take a quick shower and discarded the clothes aside in the laundry basket in the corner. Although they didn't look like they were in the condition of being worn again. The shower hitting the body had at least dulled the fatigue a little. Not spending much time there, although, He put on some comfortable t-shirt and pajamas and hit the mattresses on the bed without a second thought after blinding the curtains and fell into deep slumber in a few seconds. Scene break. Tsunade and Shizune were about to leave the village and were standing at the gates. The Hokage had politely asked to walk them, to which they agreed. Sarutobi-sensei, I couldn't say it back then, but I'm worried about Naruto. How will he manage everything alone? All this time we were there to take care of him. Not to mention now the villagers will be on him again. Tsunade asked him with worry reflecting in her eyes. Understanding her concern but at the same time stating the undeniable fact, he spoke wisely. I know what's going in your mind right now, Tsunade. But keep in mind that you won't always be around to protect him. He will have to stand up for himself one day or the other. The earlier he does that, the stronger he'll become. Don't forget that in all this time whatever you have taught him isn't in vain. Remember the saying, give a man a meal and you feed him for a day, teach the man how to cook and you feed him for a lifetime. With a little laugh he added, do you really think that a boy who managed to disable one arm of a cage can't even protect himself from some run-of-the-mill civilians? Tsunade couldn't help but chuckle at the statement, although it was far from the truth. The Hokage didn't try to hurt him while people out there were trying to kill him. But she now had faith that Naruto would be able to fend for himself and slowly turn into a fine young man. With the smile on their faces, all of them departed except for the Hokage, who bade them goodbye. Pulling the cigar out of his mouth, he thought of how he had taken up the responsibility of training the boy in his own hands. Blowing out the smoke and turning back to resume to his duties as the Hokage, he said only one sentence. Well, at least things are starting to get interesting. It was somewhat around afternoon when he woke up. Groggily, he made his way to the kitchen. There was just the water supply, so he had to bring his own glass from the backpack. After being a little refreshed, he looked around his home. It was as empty as he had first seen it. He had to get a lot of things that one would need in a place to live. The items he had back in his old house were barely in usable conditions back then, so being kept in store for all this time must have rusted them halfway through if he were to guess. There might be some important or usable stuff in there, but most of it was now basically useless. Thinking of his old house, he was reminded that the Hokage had said something about that one belonging to him too. So maybe he could make some use of it. Nah, on second thought, those irritating villagers must still be prying around in hopes of pranking or beating me up again, now that it isn't unknown that I'm back in the village. I could beat the crap out of them now before they could say demon, but I guess I shouldn't cause unwanted attention. I'll leave it be for now, I guess, he thought. He unpacked his backpack completely and put various stuff in their proper places. A part of his study table was occupied with important books and scrolls along with the rest in the cupboard. The wardrobe wasn't much filled with the few sets to clothes he had. The kitchen, dining room and the bathroom were almost the same as before. After all, he was traveling constantly, so the stuff to be carried was just the essentials. I would have to ask Gigi about that. I don't exactly know many shops around here, and I don't have the kind of money with me either that would be required to buy these kinds of stuff, Naruto said with a hand on his chin to no one in particular. This was expected, as throughout their travels all the financial tasks were attended by Shizune alone. Naruto was too young to do this kind of work, and Tsunade, well, she'd gamble it away when she had the chance. He changed into something more presentable, as he couldn't just roam around in pajamas. He had gone to check the clothes that he had wore during the match, and well, he was right. Those weren't in the condition to be wore anymore. He had to get replacement clothes as well as a few extra pairs. He went to the wardrobe and put on the usual white t-shirt with the orange jacket and black pants. Tucking the pouch with the ninja tools around his hip, he was now ready to move. Given that the seals were so tough, he didn't have to worry about anything being damaged or stolen. No civilian had the balls or skills to break through the barrier. And he didn't think any ninja would have a reason to break into his house. Yeah, shinobi hated him too, but they were disciplined enough not to indulge in any unlawful activities. The punishment for a shinobi was tougher than that of the civilians, since the shinobi were comparably privileged and were expected to uphold the law and order, not break it. Scene break and time skip. At Hokage's office, the Hokage was busy sorting out the piles of paperwork that was scattered on his desk as well as around it. Sometimes he wondered if using a Kaiden jutsu to burn it up would do any good. But Kami knows how, he would get an equal amount the next day he'd come. He heard a knock at the door. Not expecting anyone at this time, he raised his guard a bit and ordered the person to come in. The door opened and an all-familiar face characterized by whiskers came into view. The Hokage was immediately relaxed that it was just Naruto who came to see him. I'm sorry, I hope I'm not disturbing you, the boy meekly said with a smile on his face. He had already sensed the presence of Anbu bodyguards around. 2 behind the bookshelf, 1 in the attic, and 1 under the couch. How weird, he thought. Oh, don't worry about it. You can come at midnight in my home and still find me surrounded by these things while I'm busy dreaming of finally finishing all this paperwork, the Hokage said, half laughing and the other half with frustration. Naruto tried to fake laugh, having little idea what the statement referred to. Anyways, why are you here? Is it about something important? Hokage said, sensing his obliviousness. No, nothing that important. I just had to ask about a few general issues, Naruto said, clarifying that there was no necessary or urgent issue for which the Anbu had to be sent away and privacy seals to be activated. The Hokage nodded in acceptance and waited for his further queries. You see, I recently shifted into the new home, as you already know. And I have to buy a few things that would be needed since much of the old household stuff is unusable now. And as you know that, there won't be any time for these things after this week, so I was wondering if you could send someone who would be able to help me get all the things or maybe send them over, Naruto said, carefully not to reveal any sensitive information about the upcoming training. The Hokage, understanding his point, nodded his head in acknowledgement. But contrary to what Naruto had requested, he said, Naruto, why do you think I left out all that for you and not have it completely done beforehand? It was because I wanted you to be self-reliant from now on. I will not be sending anyone to select your needs and wishes. He knew that Naruto would have been dependent on the other 2 during his travels. But now that he's back in the village, he should be able to make minor decisions and handle his own. Oh, okay, I guess. So what should I do then? I don't have any money right now, nor do I know many shops like that around here. Not to mention that I'll be needing someone to shift the things inside, and I don't think anybody would be willing to do that for me, Naruto said, quoting out his problems. Okay, listen closely. First, do you have a list of what you wish to buy for your home? Hokage asked. Naruto momentarily mentally facepalmed, having forgot to write down whatever he had in mind, and moved his neck to the sides quickly in negative. So first thing you have to do is make a list of whatever you want and look out for the required shops in the market. Once done, come back here. I'll then provide you with an alternative ID for your henge, so just give a picture with the details right now to the secretary outside. That solves your problem of help you'll need from the workers or shops. Lastly, money won't be an issue since we're not going for luxury but just the basics, which will be arranged easily. I'll meet you in 3 days and then we can talk further about it. That should be enough time to cover all of the required tasks. Does that solve everything, or you still have something left? The Hokage explained. No, of course not. That would be alright. I'll make sure to do all tasks and meet you in 3 days, Naruto replied enthusiastically. He already knew that money was equally important of an asset as everything else was. So using it effectively was another skill he had to develop, even if there was enough to spare at a particular time. Hiruzen pulled out an envelope and handed it to Naruto. Whatever essential items you may need for the next few days would be easily covered with this amount. Anyways, you won't find it that easy to make out a list. These kinds of things are suited to women, it's like they have a knack for it since they are born. Naruto tilted his head in confusion. Never mind. If that's all, you may leave, Hokage said with a sigh. Yes, and good luck with whatever you were doing, Naruto said as he ran away. Hiruzen looked at the piles of paperwork around the desk and swore that he had completed half of it before Naruto came. He exclaimed to nobody, how the hell these things just grow in size automatically. Only a few suppressed Anbu snickers could be heard. Scene break and time skip. Naruto was walking around in his home with a pen and a notepad in his hands. He was beginning to feel a little frustrated since many things didn't come to mind at once when generally looking for them. He was roaming around room to room looking for anything that was required so he won't have to make trips to the market every now and then. But everything looked so empty there wasn't anything that came to mind to fill that much. He remembered the Hokage telling that it was better done by a girl or something like that. But he wasn't having anyone help anytime soon. Should have asked Shizune Nei-chan while she was in the village. It would have been a piece of cake. Thinking he was about to scream mentally. I guess I'll just write them up as I feel the need to use anything and it's unavailable. He said not so confidently since there were a lot of things which might not be needed in 2 or 3 days. Exasperated, he threw the notepad on the bed and thought about going out for some fresh air which might get his mind working again. The balcony wasn't enough space and he didn't want to sit idle anyways. So he went out to explore the village further. Scene break and time skip. Naruto was walking away from the crowded places to the outskirts of the village. He could see a few of the clan compounds as he trod away from the main district. The area was comparatively far more calm. Now he knew why these compounds were built away from those markets. He continued on towards the training fields. There weren't a whole lot of people around so he walked without any hesitation avoiding them. Although he did have some curiosity so he suppressed his chakra and went on to look at a random training ground where he could sense a few people. Hiding in a tree, he saw 3 young ninjas fighting against some silver-haired Junin by looking at the dark green vest he was wearing and the high level of chakra he sensed from him. Deducing from that, those must be students training under him. He had no idea why but the Junin seemed vaguely familiar. Although, the look was far from what he thought of training, since all the Junin was doing was to kick them around with his hands in his pockets. But he also saw why the students were unable to connect a hit. Those idiots. If they are all against a single one, why not coordinate their attacks rather than attack blindly? He's no pushover if he's a Junin and yet none seem to even see eye to eye with each other, Naruto contemplated. Anyways, it wasn't his place to judge. He had other things to take care of. The Junin was more than enough for a teacher if the students listened to him. With these thoughts, he backed off and jumped on the other side to look around further and left. On the other side, the Junin wondered if he had seen someone leaving the place from the corner of his eye and also squinted at the fact that why he couldn't sense him at all. Time skip. After going through various training fields, and obviously avoiding those belonging to individual clans, he reached a certain overgrown field resembling a deep forest which looked abandoned, due to all the locked gates and fences he could see surrounding the entire area. He would have moved on quite willingly until he sensed a lone chakra signature somewhere around in the middle of the center and edge of the forest. Is someone training in this place? But, it's locked so why would anyone go in here? There are lots of other places. Can it be that someone got stuck inside and can't find a way out? This place seems like one can't navigate easily enough. Should I go inside and check? Or maybe I should just walk away? Should I ask Gigi? But what if someone's in trouble right now? What should I do? Those were the thoughts running in his mind as he scrambled around, his hands on his head in frustration. Not to mention he was a little scared of the appearance of the place, added to which he didn't know the territory inside. On the other hand, leaving a needy person who might require assistance as soon as possible alone in such a place while he could help him was something he could never do. So, without any more delay, he leapt over the gates and fences in an acrobatic manner and landed on the other side. Running deeper into the forest, what he missed in the hurry was a signboard further ahead on which was visible a danger sign of skull and bones, and what was written under it could be read. Training Area 44. The Forest of Death. Time skip. What the hell is this place? I've been here for half an hour at most and almost been eaten 5 times even when I'm being so careful. What in the world is this person thinking of roaming around here? Naruto said out loud as he leapt away at branches. The chakra signature was still further away, but he could sense that it was getting stronger as he got near. Hope I'm not too late. If someone is actually in trouble, that is, he thought. He increased his speed to reach the destination quickly but was again interrupted by a giant spider along the way. Getting annoyed, he one-punched the spider down with his enhanced strength and trod forward hastily. Finally reaching the person he was looking for, he hid in the tree shadows to look at him. Wait, it's a her. The person standing there was a girl in her late teens having violet hair tied up in a ponytail. She was wearing a coat and mesh bodysuit underneath, but the coat fairly covered almost all of the upper half of her body closely. She had a leaf headband over her head. He decided to approach her warily but was surprised when he sensed a similar chakra behind and a kunai was on his neck before he could turn. Looking for someone, little guy? A feminine voice asked. He saw the woman in front of him disperse into snakes. It was a snake clone, huh? Never saw one before. He thought. How did you know I was here? He asked. Well, I can sense people now and then. Although you're just a little brat, so you won't have any chakra at all. It had more to do with the fact that I heard a loud noise from that very direction, she replied. Oh, it was at that moment I punched the spider down. He facepalmed mentally. He thought of the options he had at the moment. Either he could elbow the girl fast enough and then engage in a fight, or simply surrender and talk nicely. Given that she was roaming around here in this place crawling with all kinds of deadly creatures, she was no joke. But most importantly, she was a leaf shinobi, and that was enough to give her benefit of the doubt. So he chose the latter. I was looking for you. I mean no harm. I'm a little scared of it right now, so could you please remove this kunai from my neck? He asked politely. The girl made no movement for a few seconds but then removed the kunai, guessing no harm could be done before listening the matter out clearly. He was just a young boy after all. Okay, but if you wanna talk, let's sit someplace, she said as she jumped down. Both of them sat near the base of the tree while the girl demanded why he was after her. I was roaming around the training ground but sensed a single chakra signature here. I thought somebody could be in trouble, so I may be able to help, he explained. So, you want me to believe we're able to sense my chakra from far outside the fences? What are you, 9, 10 at most? Sensory ninja or a different class altogether. Most chunin can't sense that far. Who are you kidding, brat? I thought you just entered by mistake and were expecting someone to save you, she said. No, I did come here in case you needed any help or something. And don't underestimate me just because of my age, Naruto retorted, a little offended. Calm down, brat. Well, I guess I can't deny the fact completely since you managed to walk through the forest while you look mostly unharmed, she said, eyeing him. HMPH. He just said, turning his head sideways. Okay, I never got your name. Care to share? She asked rather nicely, which seemed a little forced. Naruto Uzumaki. I hope you'll tell me yours too, he replied. Anko Mitarashi. Nice to meet you, Naruto. Wait, aren't you that kid who? She stopped mid-sentence. It's alright, I know what that's about. Nice to meet you, Anko-san, he said. They made small talk about things here and there. He got to know that she was also like him, as some villagers treated her badly too, although not to an extent as much they hated him. It was because of the snake Sanin that she was put under guidance of a long time ago. She was thus also mocked as the snake bitch due to the curse mark he had used on her. That's why she roamed around here since she was young, because no one dared to step foot in this forest and she was well acquainted with the surroundings. But now she was a chunin and no one dared to mess with her. She was empathetic towards him, that's why she did start to like to talk around him. So why exactly were you taking a stroll in the middle of the day here? She asked. He rubbed the back of his head sheepishly and told her about the list he had to make to manage his home. Also how he miserably failed to do so, in the first attempt at least. So he went outside to explore and get some fresh air. What? That's nothing to be worked up on. If you want, I'll be glad to help, she said. Naruto was momentarily relieved that someone could help him, but still wasn't sure if she was trustworthy enough to be shown his home. She picked up his hesitation quite easily and thought of the only way to gain someone's trust, that is, to put your own trust in them. She motioned him to follow as she said, "Come on." Naruto was not sure of what to do but decided to go along as long as there wasn't any danger. Not far from the place where they were originally, she stopped in her tracks where two giant trees stood closely while their roots were intermingled above the ground. Not easily visible, there was a hut that was built rather unprofessionally, using the tree roots as foundation and using wood around them. As they neared it, Anko opened the gate and asked Naruto in. He was surprised to see that it looked cozy on the inside. Also, it was rather impressive as it was decorated and also well organized. He was a little ashamed that he couldn't even figure out a simple list while she seemed to have used up every corner of the space effectively. Welcome to my heavenly abode. This is the place I come to rest and relax where no one disturbs me. It is like an oasis in a desert, an island in the ocean, a mountain between the clouds, whatever you may call it. I don't like my house in the village that much, so I spend a lot of time here in this place, she said. Wow, this is awesome. Can I come here sometime again? He asked. Sure, but only when I'm around. I don't want anyone sneaking around my house even if it's you. And you told me you can sense people, right? So make sure no one follows you. You can count the number of people on fingers of one hand who know about this place, including you, so be extra careful, she said. He nodded readily. This house, unlike his own, had no security seals involved. It was probably because this forest itself was far more dangerous than any seal. A civilian would be eaten within 5 minutes of entering this area, if he's lucky enough. Naruto also felt reassured that he could trust the girl enough if she was willing to share her secret with him. In any case, he knew he did need some kind of help to be able to make that list. Anko-san, would you be able to help me out a little? He asked. Anko smirked, having found something interesting to do on a rather monotonous, uneventful day. Scene break and time skip. Both Naruto and Anko reached his home. Anko waited for him to unlock the door but barged in right before him as she was getting impatient, since he had to henge into a civilian and they couldn't cause attention. Also, he had to buy the groceries to cook lunch. Casting off the sandals aside, Anko ironically took her time as if speculating each and everything that could be used to make the place lively. Naruto quietly followed her, wondering what could be done by watching empty walls and cupboards. After what seemed like eternity to Naruto, Anko finally concluded up whatever she was doing and faced him. They were currently in his bedroom. I must say, kid, you have got a great apartment for just yourself. But what it lacks is liveliness. It's so depressing. I've seen prison cells better than this one. You're lucky I'm here. Don't worry, just grab a pen and paper and write whatever I say, Anko said. The reason the wall looked completely empty was that Naruto had stored away the photo frame of him from his travels, since he was worried someone might pull the pieces together and know about where he's been the last few years. After all, there is always a chance someone might break in. Naruto did as instructed and brought the notepad he had been working on and showed Anko whatever he wrote. She tore that page and threw it away, instructing him to categorize all the stuff. Once done, she started rambling different types of things and Naruto was struggling to keep up. How is she even thinking of all kinds of that stuff? What the hell some of these things even mean? Man, this is great. Gigi will be surprised I was able to complete the list. And the talk about women knowing about this stuff, definitely correct, he thought. He couldn't believe how she quoted up the exact number and description of whatever could be needed. By the time she ended, half the notepad was filled and his hand was aching. Anko had a satisfactory smile knowing she didn't leave anything out. Wow, that was awesome. It's like you are an interior designer or something, he said. Anko just laughed loudly and replied, believe me Naruto, I'm not at all an expert in these nids of things. You should check the women out there who know the real stuff. Naruto just gaped in awe as to how someone could be better than this. But again, there was much in this world he didn't know about yet. So how are you gonna buy these things again? I don't think a kid like you would have enough money, she asked curiously. Well, Gigi said it won't be an issue, but I would have to cross out some of the less necessary things, he said, not wanting to be direct about it. Who are you talking about? She inquired. Well, the Hokage, of course, he replied. Lord Hokage? She shouted in surprise. Hey, why are you shouting like that? He said. I'm sorry. It isn't a surprise, although since he also helped me when that man left me with this curse. I will always be grateful, she said. Yeah, right. It didn't sound like you were surprised. He rolled his eyes sarcastically. Shrugging off his comment, she said, so, when will you be buying all these things? I can drop by to help. It's not like I have anything better to do. I'll have to show the list to Gigi first. He asked me to come after a few days to talk about some things, he said. Okay, I'll be at Amaguriyama, the dango shop, for next 4 days in the morning for breakfast if you want to meet then. If you are late than that, I won't be able to help since I have a mission afterwards, Anko said. Knowing the location which wasn't too far from Ichiraku's, he nodded in affirmation. Thank you for helping, he said. Don't mention it, as I already said, I have nothing better to do right now, she said as she left. Great, I didn't even imagine it could done that easily, he said, but then a realization struck him. What am I going to do now to pass the time? Time skip, 3 days later. Naruto was currently standing in front of the gate of Hokage office around late morning. He had passed the time mainly by studying the scrolls and books that Tsunade had left with him. He did buy a few novels from the shops using a henge to pass the time, but those were quickly finished. Other than that, there wasn't anything that he considered even vaguely interesting at the time. He had also given the required details for the alternative ID that were needed the next day. He had to cut short the list now instead of trying to fill it. At least this was easier. He crossed off most of the decorative stuff and also the things without which he could manage easily enough. He knocked and waited for the Hokage to permit him to enter. Once he opened the gate, he saw that the Hokage had cleared up most of the paperwork already, or maybe burned them to ash, who knows. He exchanged greetings and then came directly onto the topic. I have made a list of whatever items that I need like you told me. Here, you can have a look, Naruto said as he presented a different notepad on which he had neatly written the final checklist. The Hokage was impressed to see that he had indeed written down everything that was expected. Good. But I can't believe you did this all by yourself, Hokage said. Actually, I didn't. I had someone help me with all this. Truth be told, I wouldn't have been able to make it even if you have me a month, he said. I didn't know you had friends around here. That's good to know. Who was this if I may ask? Hiruzen said. Her name is Anko Mitarashi. I didn't know her until a few days ago. I kind of ran into her in the training grounds when I was taking a stroll, Naruto said. Oh, so you've already befriended Anko. I suppose that it's good you had help. Although it defeats the purpose that you do it by yourself. Well, at least you tried, the Hokage said. Naruto just gave an uncomfortable laugh. Now, first take this. The alternative ID AN, glorified name of fake ID, which you needed has been prepared, Hokage said, giving him a laminated card. Naruto accepted it and carefully tucked it in his pocket. I have cleared up my schedule for today so we can head out anytime now. Come on, the Hokage said. Wait, but where are we going? I just needed some money so I could buy all the items I need, Naruto asked. Just come along, would you? I will explain it to you once we reach there, Hiruzen said as he walked out followed by Naruto. Scene break and time skip. Naruto was looking up at a huge building with the title saying Reserve Bank of Konoha on a beautifully designed leaf-shaped board. The building was the head office of the bank, which also had other smaller offices throughout the village. This was the only bank through which all the transactions occurred, since allowing multiple banks would increase the chance of bypassing transparency of the financial inflow and outflow of the capital through the village. Although the use of cash could still be another way for the shady businesses, it did prevent exchange of larger amounts of money without increasing the chances of getting caught. The building was quite flashy compared to the simple design of the Hokage office, since that place represented a symbol of power while this one represented the flourishing and luxury that the village had. It was also partly due to the fact that important persons from all over the Land of Fire also used the services of this bank, finding it to be more safer and trustworthy. As a result, it was also highly guarded and secure, since attempt at a sabotage to this place could also deal a heavy blow to the village. Naruto just stood there admiring the building, since he never came here before now, as there was never a need. He also now understood why the Hokage brought him here. Come on, we don't want to spend the whole day here, the Hokage said. Wait a minute, you forgot to take out some money, so you dragged me all the way here. Why not just call me at a later time? Or maybe send someone else to fetch it? You're Anbu, literally anybody else, Naruto accused. It isn't what you think. Just follow me and halt your questions for a while, he said, ignoring the questions as he entered the building through the glass doors followed by Naruto. They were promptly greeted at the reception and escorted to an office on the topmost level of the building. To Naruto it seemed like a royal corridor belonging to a luxury hotel at the time they were being led to a specific office. The end came at a wooden gate which was itself a piece of art and on which was a metal plate which told them that it was the office of the highest-ranking official in the whole bank, reading President. The escort knocked on the door and with permission invited the guests inside. He left as soon as all of the people were inside the room. The room was no less sumptuous than the outside if not more. It extended on the right side of the door having a single window on the front covered by curtains. A wooden bookcase stood behind the table and chair on which the man was seated. The man stood from his chair and greeted the Hokage properly. Hokage-sama, it is an honor for us to have your presence here. Why bother coming all the way here although? You could have just sent a word and I'd come to your office, the man said. Oh, there's no need for that. I've come here for some personal business. And sitting around all the time won't do any good to the stiff joints this old body has, the Hokage replied politely. Naruto was observing the man as he spoke to the Hokage. He looked a little younger than the Hokage, but still was an old man with gray hair. He had wore a traditional outfit compared to most of the other staff working at the bank. It was probably due to the generation gap and he still preferred conventional garments. His posture was straight yet respectful while talking to the Hokage. And who else do I have the pleasure to make acquaintance with today? He said looking at Naruto. Ahaya gozaimasu, Oji-san. My name is Naruto. Naruto said respectfully. Ahaya, Naruto-san. It's nice to meet you. Please, both you have a seat, he said. Once they were seated, the man sent for someone to bring them tea. This is an old friend of mine, Reizo. He's been running this bank for a lot of years and I don't know anyone who is half as able to manage things smoothly as he can. He always has been an expert at finance and economics, the Hokage said while facing Naruto. You humble me, Hokage-sama. I've just been trying to do my best at the responsibility I've been given, nothing else, Reizo said with a smile. I'm not going to take much of your time, so let's get to the work I'm here for, Hiruzen said. Of course, how can I help you today? Reizo said with a business-like expression. The Hokage pulled out a scroll and put it in front of the man on the table. The details of an account in this boy's name under my guardianship are in the scroll. It was until now a deposit-only account but now I'd like to convert it for withdrawal as well. Also, I'd like to have a specific withdrawal limit per month started from next week, he said. Of course, that can be arranged easily. You might already know, but in case the ceiling limit is reached we will require a document duly signed by you, the guardian, to withdraw from the rest. Is that okay with you? Reizo asked. Yes, I understand completely. It is as I wish, the Hokage said. Very well, I will need a little more documentation from both of you but it won't take much time, Reizo said as he made a call. A woman appeared at the door who was instructed by the president to carry out the work. Naruto, I will need you to go with her for some identification details. Don't worry, she will explain everything to you, Reizo said. Naruto, who was listening quietly through the whole conversation, just looked towards the Hokage, who nodded. He then walked off following the lady out of the room. Hokage-sama, if I may ask, isn't this the same child who I think he is? Reizo asked hesitantly. The Hokages glared at the man with stern eyes and said, yes, he is. And don't forget that he has a name too, it's Naruto. I apologize, I didn't mean it like that. I was just concerned if giving a child like him liberty and that too to someone as Naruto would be the right decision, not that I question your wisdom, Reizo said. You don't see him as himself yet, my friend. He will be an exceptional shinobi someday and a great asset to the Leaf Village. Remember my words, and maybe sometime in the future when you recall them, you may understand, the Hokage said sipping his tea. If you say so with such confidence, I don't have any doubts myself. I do hope you're right, for the best of the village, Hiruzen senpai, Reizo said with a smile on his face. After some time, as they made small talk, Naruto returned with the same woman who was holding a bunch of documents and an envelope. Sir, all the formalities are done except for the guardian's signature in a few places, she said, handing over the documents and the envelope to the man. Reizo got the signatures from Hiruzen and handed over all of them except the envelope to the woman who left the room. Handing over the envelope, Reizo said, "This contains all the things related to this account including the debit card. The sealing will be started from the next week, which will be 15,000 ryo as mentioned in the scroll. Is there anything else I can help you with?" "No, that will be all for today. Thank you, Reizo," the Hokage said. "The pleasure is all mine, Hokage-sama. And it was nice meeting you, Naruto-kun. I hope we meet again soon," Reizo said. "Thank you, Reizo-san. It was nice meeting you too," Naruto said politely with a slight bow. With that, they left the office and once again were in the front of the office building but facing the opposite side. "Now that we have completed our work here, do you need anything else?" the Hokage asked. "Actually, there is one thing that I wanted to ask. Since we are going to start training after a few days, I was wondering if you could show me a shop where I can restock up on the ninja tools since I did use many of them in the test," Naruto said. "Oh, sure, I have just the place in mind," the Hokage said as he started walking followed by Naruto. Scene break and time skip. Naruto was perplexed as to why they were currently walking in a small street of a comparatively less crowded area of the village. Surely there would have been many shops in the main market too. But the old man must have known what he's doing, so he kept following him silently. After making a few twists and turns, they finally reached a shop at the corner which looked like it had seen better days. Not that it was broken or wrecked in some way, it was just completely worn out, in the lack of a better term. The shop owner hadn't spent anything on renovation of any kind from the looks of it. Although appearances can be misleading, so he entered the shop following the Hokage, whose signboard read, Konoha Tools. Upon entering the shop, as usual, the Hokage was greeted instantly by a relatively young man who appeared to be the shop owner. He looked like he was aged around early to mid-30s. "Hokage-sama, it's a pleasure to have you here. Although you could have sent me the requirements and I would have delivered it as usual on time," he asked, which suggested that the Hokage did frequent purchases from this place. "I would have, but I came here to introduce someone here. He might be one of your potential customers," the Hokage said with a little laugh. "Oh, I'm sorry I didn't see you before. My name is Yuichi and I am the owner of this store. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. And let me say, I am reminded of someone whose hair were quite similar to yours when I look at you, little one," he said with a smile. "My name is Naruto. It's nice to meet you too," Naruto said embarrassingly from the last comment at his hair. "Naruto would like to make a few purchases today," the Hokage said, being a little uncomfortable diverting the topic for some reason. "Yes sir, but I usually don't sell weapons to civilians, especially children, unless they're in the ninja academy." "Are you sure this is okay?" Yuichi asked. "Yes, he is more than capable of handling himself. I take complete responsibility if you're hesitant," the Hokage said in a tone which sounded like he was indirectly giving an order. "If you say so, Hokage-sama. I have no doubts then. So what do you need?" the shop owner asked Naruto. 500 kunai, 500 shuriken, and 250 senbon needles, for now. These should be more than enough. I don't know how much I'll be needing afterwards, so I'll come by later if necessary," he said. Yuichi was visibly surprised as he expected the boy to buy a few articles at most, not a few hundred, but managed to gulp the fact down when the nodded upon his look for confirmation. But again, if a customer asks something, who is he to judge? "Sure. Please wait for a minute," the owner said as he went inside the shop storeroom. He returned after a minute with 3 scrolls in his hand and turned it over to Naruto, saying, "Here, I packed all the 3 items in different scrolls free of charge so you won't be confused and would be easier for you. Think of it as a small gift since you made such a big order in one go and at your first time here." "Thank you, Yuichi-san. Here is your payment," Naruto said, giving him his debit card. Yuichi was again surprised since he thought the Hokage was going to make the payment, but accepted the card nonetheless and swiped it through the point-of-sale machine. Naruto pressed the password, having memorized it during the walk to the shop when the Hokage had explained to him how it worked. The payment was successful and the receipt was given along with the bill. Naruto, being curious, asked the man, "Excuse me, Yuichi-san, but I couldn't help but notice that your shop looks like it has been quite some time after its last repair or renovation. Is there a reason for that?" Yuichi just smiled at the question instead of being offended and said, Naruto-san, was it? I am fully aware of the condition our shop is in. But we don't have enough money to spare for those kinds of works. I just earn enough to have my family live a normal life. But a weapons shop like yours could earn quite a lot since this is a shinobi village and there is a need for them every time. Maybe if you relocate to a better place, Naruto trailed off. It's not that I can't, but I don't do it on purpose. You see, this shop has been here for generations and our family has been running it since then. We consider ourselves to be excellent craftsmen and thus don't work on anything half-heartedly as we take pride in our work. To increase my production I would have to rush out the things which ultimately would lead to deprivation of the quality of the product. Nor I can increase the prices since it would affect our customers who place their trust in our work. We might not be rich, but that is not the goal. No one ever gets any chance of complaint ever for any product and we always receive praise and will hope to keep it that way to the best we can, Yuichi explained with a proud look. Oh, that is so awesome. But do you also know how to use them? Naruto asked. Why yes of course. I am a certified ninja, boy. Although I opted for early retirement since I was more interested in running this place and working on ninja tools. Let me tell you something interesting. One of my teammates on my Genin team was none other than whom you today know as the 4th Hokage. My daughter too has joined the academy this year. She has also shown some interest towards ninja tools, so maybe one day she would take over running this place, although that's still uncertain, Yuichi replied. Paying no heed to the last statement about his daughter, Naruto excitedly asked, Whoa really? You were on 4th Hokage's team. Please tell me about him, he's practically a legend. Laughing at the boy's excitement, Yuichi said, Yes, I was. Actually I was ahead of him initially in the academy, but due to his exceptional rapid progress, he was promoted 2 years to our batch. When we became Genin, we actually had to struggle to keep up with him. He quickly outshone everyone else as he had already made it to Junin when we became Chunin. He practically won us a war single-handedly soon after becoming the 4th Hokage. After the war, I retired and started working here. He was in a true sense what a prodigy could mean. Naruto's eyes were gleaming with stars after hearing so much about his role model. The Hokage was quietly listening to the talk while observing Naruto. Thank you for everything, Yuichi-san. I hope to see you again real soon. Maybe you could tell me more about the 4th, Naruto said. It's my pleasure. I would love to boast about my friend to anyone who wants to listen. Although it's a shame that he isn't among us anymore, I am proud as a friend and a citizen of the leaf that he courageously laid down his life for the sake of the village. Anyways, it was nice meeting you, Naruto, Yuichi said as he shook Naruto's hand and bowed to the Hokage. With that, the duo exited the shop leading to the Hokage asking Naruto again, so is that all or do you need something else? Thinking for a few seconds without any important work popping in his mind, he replied, No, nothing comes to mind as of now. Thank you for sparing some time for me. It would have been a hassle without you around. Now I just have to meet Anko-san tomorrow and we will go shopping and that's it. Don't mention it. And also keep in mind not to overspend. No matter how alluring, if you don't need it then don't waste your money, the Hokage advised. Sure, I will keep that in mind. Also, I wanted to ask something. Won't the money get totally depleted eventually if I keep using it? Also I don't even know how much is it or how an account in my name exists in the first place, Naruto said. The Hokage thought about what to answer the kid. The initial amount of money which was deposited to his account instead of Tsunade's was due to her request that the journey undertaken by her for the 3 years was solely for Naruto's sake and therefore it was only fitting that Naruto use it in the future. An S-rank pay for a 3-year mission was a considerable amount which was easily few million ryo. This was also the reason why some shinobi after such harsh or long missions took their time relaxing in leisure since money wouldn't be an issue for at least some time. Although surprisingly, it was the other deposit which made up most of the part currently in the account. It was something he got to know from the letters that Tsunade sent between their travels which had nearly made his eyes pop out of their orbits. He had to read the letter thrice before he could believe what had just read. Momentarily remembering what the letter revealed, he delved deep into his memory. Flashback. Come on Shizune Nei-chan, I'm starving. Can't you walk a little bit faster? Ba-chan must have finished her lunch by now. It's because of you. Naruto said loudly, walking briskly reverse-footed, pointing a finger at Shizune, who was sweat-dropping, being the target of the glances of all the surrounding pedestrians because of him. You know why? Because you insisted that we train until I get my aim right while dinner can wait a little more. Now we are very much more than a little late. And still you're walking slower than a turtle. We won't even reach there until supper at this speed. Shizune, being embarrassed enough, quickly replied, Naruto, please stop making a scene here. I said I'm sorry. I didn't think it would take that long and lost track of time. And I don't want to be seen running through the streets with a rumbling stomach, that's why we're walking. Tell you what, I'll make it up by treating you to ramen. Now let's go to the hotel room to freshen up before we head to the dining area. Fine. But only because you're treating me ramen. Don't forget your promise. Naruto said as he turned to walk normally without complaints, folding his hands. Well, I'm going to get scolded by Lady Tsunade for feeding him ramen every now and then. But what can I do except that to shut him up nicely? Shizune asked, not that anyone was there to listen to her. Both of them reached the place in the town where they were staying for the time being. They reached the room and had to use the key since the gate was locked. Upon entering, they saw that Tsunade was nowhere to be found. Instead, a note was seen on the table, which Shizune picked up promptly before reading it. I'm going out to have some fun, Shizune. Take care of Naruto, I'll be back in a few hours. This was all she had to read to give out a frustrated groan, which Naruto encountered quite a lot in a similar situation now and then, so didn't bother to ask about it. Instead, he rushed off to shower first since his stomach left no chance in telling everyone that he was hungry. Leave her alone for one moment and she rushes off to gamble whatever money she has. I am certain she is at the biggest gambling hall of this town. And once she starts betting, even I can't stop her until she's completely soused dry. Why do I have to babysit everyone in the first place? Shizune grumbled, exasperated. She shoved these thoughts aside as Naruto came out of shower, indicating that she could use it now. While she was using the shower, Naruto was less than patiently tapping his foot on the floor, which was clouded by the sound his stomach made while rumbling. Shizune was then virtually dragged to the hotel-attached restaurant after she came out of the shower, only having enough time to hang the towel which she was using to dry her hair. She had to keep true to her promise after they reached the place, so she ordered ramen for Naruto while the regular meal for herself. Given how hungry both of them were, it didn't take much time before their meals were finished, with Naruto having multiple empty bowls stacked in front of him. So where is Ba-chan anyways? I know she left a note telling you, so let's go there too, Naruto said. Shizune was a little surprised by the question since she didn't exactly expect it beforehand, but replied, she's somewhere around in town. Why do you ask? Well, wherever she is, Taunton is with her. And I want to play with Taunton, Naruto said. Why don't you play with me? We can also train if you want. Or we can also have a little rest easy since we just ate a meal. Shizune replied, not wanting to roam around the town in their search, but a certain knucklehead wasn't going to relent this easily. Oh come on Nei-chan, did you forget what's that saying about walking helps to digest your food? After I meet Taunton we'll play on our own, so you can rest all you want. Now let's go, Naruto said, tugging on her arm. Shizune sighed as she had enough experience to know that the boy was adamant enough not to be persuaded easily, just like her teacher if not more. Thus, holding his hand, she left the building with the only thought. Just why did I let Taunton go with Lady Tsunade, thinking that it would save me the trouble of holding it all the way back. Scene break and time skip. Shizune had finally managed to pinpoint the location of the biggest gambling hall in the town, and they were currently standing at the entrance. What is this place, Nei-chan? And why is Ba-chan here? Naruto said. Being unable to tell him what exactly was the purpose of this place to the boy, she said something which wasn't a lie but a half-truth. Well, you can play some games here which can win you some prizes. Whoa, like the ones that we see in fairs, where you have to pop balloons or throw rings on targets? Naruto asked excitedly. Not exactly. These are a little different, but yeah, kind of like that, Shizune said. Let's go then, what are we waiting for? Naruto said, rushing off inside to find Tsunade with Shizune following him, thinking how she got herself in this situation. A few minutes later they found Tsunade with Tauntaun on her lap at the casino table on which the biggest betting seemed to be going on. She looked like she was about to explode from the frustration builded up just below the surface, gauging by the angry expression she was trying to hide. It was likely due to her losing streak that kept going on today too, while the others were salivating at the hefty amount of money they were going to make today after what's left was just one last round. Ba-chan, we finally found you, a voice called out, heard by Tsunade, which put oil in the fire that she was already trying to control. She looked towards the source with an angry look but was surprised to find Naruto there. How many times have I told you not to call me that in public? And why are you here, Naruto? Where is Shizune? She asked. As if on cue, Shizune came up running behind Naruto to find a questioning gaze from her teacher. She was going to apologize and explain her reasons, but Naruto beat her to it. I had trained with Nei-chan a lot since morning. So I wanted to play with Tauntaun, but you were not at the hotel. And Nei-chan said it might take you hours to come back, so we came looking for you instead. Come on Tauntaun, let's go play. Tsunade facepalmed at the reasoning but shrugged it off easily, already expecting some kind of childish answer from him. Wait, I'm almost done here. Doesn't take me a few hours to empty my stash considering my luck. I'll come with you guys too, she said. Can I play too? I never played this kind of game before. Please, please, Naruto said hopefully. Looking at the cute face he was making and considering that she was on her last straws, decided to let him since there was no harm. Fine. Here, these are the dice. You have to try to predict what can be the outcome, either odd or even, she said, taking Naruto on her lap with Tauntaun jumping into Shizune's arms, who watched wide-eyed as she expected Tsunade to scold her for bringing Naruto her and not have him play. Naruto grinned at having a chance to play. He guessed odd and it went right. Tsunade was happy that at least he didn't have her bad luck. But what she did not expect was what happened afterwards. Turn by turn Naruto guessed the outcomes and they came out to be the same. It wasn't long before Tsunade had more than the amount she had started with piled up in front of her. She was tempted to stop the game since all of it could be lost again, but she knew that it was Naruto's game now, so opted to watch. Getting annoyed at suddenly being at a loss against the large profit they were expecting, they turned in bigger stakes to swipe it back quickly. But fate had other plans for the day, as Naruto kept guessing the outcome correctly, making the game fun to him, oblivious to the death glares received from all the rest of the participants. Tsunade was now instead trying to control the laughter and amusement that came due to the situation. Shizune was seen retracting her dropped jaw, since never in her life she had seen Tsunade winning a jackpot like that. Since it was Naruto and not herself who was winning the games, Tsunade didn't have any ominous feeling at the back of her mind. Wow, my Naru-chan, you are so great at this. We actually won the game. Suon said, barely hiding her grin as the whole table was empty as space except for the area where Tsunade was sitting. The collective money was accounted to be around 5 million ryo, which Tsunade would happily have been content to withdraw, but the game that fate wanted to play wasn't over yet. The rich casino owner, getting several complaints from the customers about how a single woman with a kid seemingly robbed them off, somehow approached her to somehow get back the money. It seems like you're enjoying your time here. I would like to make an offer at another game. It is different from the classic Dice one as we have recently installed it, he said. Yes, let's go, I want to play more, Naruto said, to which Tsunade couldn't refuse. The chuffed casino owner escorted them to the area where the game was. It was a roulette with a metal ball of silver color inside. The numbers were arranged from 0 to 50, with each successive number being alternatively red and black. At the center there was another ring which had only color marking with blue and green alternatively. There are many ways to play this one. For example, you can bet on it being red or black, which would give a 50% chance. Any combination you like would be allowed, and we'll calculate according to the odds placed. It gives the customer a variety of options. Also, the inner ring, should you wish to use it, can double or half the amount of whatever you score depending on the color chosen, the owner explained. Guessing the best choice would be to let Naruto speak the outcome, since it was because of him that they had reached this stage. She told the owner that whatever Naruto says would be the bet. Without a doubt in his mind, Naruto exclaimed, dramatically pointing his finger, I choose blue number 7 with every single bit hope I have. The bar owner internally squealed at having the best possible situation in his hands since the odds were against the boy at 50 to 1 since he chose one number. Tsunade on the other hand was mortified at the scene since the money was as good as gone now. The owner made no delay in starting the roulette wheel as Tsunade couldn't back down after giving Naruto the decision, nor did he want to give her any chance to protest. The roulette started spinning along with the hopes of all those present although those of few were quite bleak. Tsunade's folded her hands with one hand going all the way up covering her already closed eyes. Shizune clutched Taunton even more tightly much to the annoyance of it. The owner along with the already lost gamblers were waiting to get the money back in the game as they were as good as victors here. Many of the crowd inside the casino had gathered around the roulette table when they heard that a really large bet was taking place. All those simply had a curious look in their eyes although they too expected the game to move in the favor of the owner. Time seemed to slow down as the speed of the ball around the roulette began to decelerate. Making a few rounds with the speed dying down, it finally came to a stop. To everyone time seemed to be still, since there wasn't a sound in the whole casino at the moment the clock read 19:29 hours. Oink oink. Taunton wondered what happened as all the voice seemed to have died down and the grip of Shizune seemed to be even tightened. Yeah! Naruto shouted. This seemed to break everyone from their trance as the crowd erupted into cheer while Tsunade stood there speechless at the sight that beheld. The roulette spin ended the silver ball exactly at number 7 while the inner ring also aligned blue color with it. The turn to be truly mortified at the scene was partially expressed by the lost gamblers but mostly by the owner who had overconfidently invited his own demise metaphorically speaking. It was because now the reward was changed in terms of the clients and for the better. Ascertaining the value by going with the odds of 50 against 1, the 5 million ryo had been proliferated to 250 million ryo. To add salt on the wound for the owner, blue color in the outcome had basically doubled the amount to a freaking 500 million ryo. Feeling exultant at the near impossible outcome which was in their favor, Tsunade didn't take any more time to hug Naruto hard, crashing his face into the so-called Valley of Heaven, making many of the male crowd wish they were in his place. Although to Naruto, it felt as if he would asphyxiate any minute. The same could be said for Taunton since Shizune didn't seem to express herself more consciously than subconsciously. After some time when the hype died down and the loser gamblers sneaked their way out hurriedly, the owner had no choice but to keep his word since everybody had witnessed the scene, so his business and impression was on the line. He reluctantly took Shizune to his office room where he opened the vault and counted the money along with Shizune, after which she sealed it in a scroll. The vault did seem to look much emptier to the irritation of the owner since it had been quite a lot of time for him to build up this much amount of money. Shizune simply nodded and held back a smile, then went to meet the others outside the building. Naruto was quite happy since he won, although confused as to why everyone made a fuss about it. Tsunade on the other hand was feeling quite elated. This has to be the best day ever. Lady Luck must be giving me back all the lost fortune I could have had since forever. Naruto, I can't believe you're this felicitous at these kinds of things. You're coming with me every time now, Tsunade said happily. Lady Tsunade, Shizune scolded her. Here comes the party pooper. Okay, I was just kidding. From what happened today, I think I've had my fun all at once, and I really don't want to push my luck, Tsunade replied. So what was the prize again? Naruto asked. That you don't need to worry. Your prize is that you get to eat ramen tomorrow as much as you want, Tsunade said smiling. Really? Wow, I need to get to this place more often, he said. Naruto, Shizune said. Okay, I was kidding. What's with you, this place is a lot of fun. But anyways, as long as I'm getting ramen I won't complain, Naruto grinned. Shizune handed over the scroll to Tsunade, who carefully stored it inside her pocket of the haori. They headed to the hotel directly since it was getting late. Tsunade upon reaching sent a letter to the Hokage conveying Naruto's recent success at stripping off a whole casino. She had also asked the details to Naruto's account since she had decided to deposit all of the money in it. A few days later, while Naruto had gone to be treated to another round of ramen to his delight with Shizune, Tsunade had set up a meeting at the branch of Konoha Reserve Bank in the town where she deposited the hefty amount, much to the surprise of the manager. Flashback over. Well, Details about the account itself are not something you need to know for now. And the money won't get down to zero since the interest also keeps being added to it. Yeah, right. Nice way of fooling the kid Hiruzen. He wouldn't be able to finish it easily even if he wanted to. And you will be able to start working on ninja missions after passing the academy, which would also get earnings. For now, just focus on your studies and training and not your finances. If there's any problem you can always ask me, these can be easily handled, the Hokage said. Naruto frowned at being denied of the details but then shrugged it off. After all, the Hokage does everything in his best interests. And maybe he'll know when the right time comes. Before I forget, you can also use the card at any ATM machine to withdraw cash since not every shop uses the electronic payment system, the Hokage said. Okay. Thanks again, Gigi. I'm going back home now, Naruto said and sprinted away. My, what an energetic child. Well, I have taken the day off anyway, so guess I'll spend some time with my grandson, the Hokage said to no one in particular. Scene break and time skip. Next day. Okay, I guess this is the shop. I've passed this one a lot of times but never actually bought anything from this shop. I guess I don't have much of a sweet tooth, Naruto said standing in front of the shop at the given time Anko had told him. He entered the shop with his eyes scanning the area looking for the girl. He easily spotted her at the corner in the right, sitting alone with a couple of dango sticks in the plate and stuffing her mouth with the rest. It was because the shop was less crowded as it was a weekday and the time was late morning, so mostly everyone had gone off to work. Hey there, Anko-san. Good morning, Naruto said as he approached the girl. As her mouth was full at the moment, she just waved at him and he waited until she forced the last with a glass of water and said, Naruto. You're actually on time. That's good, because I hate waiting. And there's a certain guy from one of my seniors who always keeps people waiting for hours and hours. Man, that's annoying. Shrugging off the comment since he didn't know whoever that person was, he said, yeah, I always keep my promises. So now should we go to the market? Cool down. I'm not running anywhere. And anyways, I can't let you leave here until we have some dangos, she said as she shouted, hey old man, can we have some more dangos here? The middle-aged man replied in affirmation and grumbled something about not being that old yet. Hey, wait a minute. I thought we would have to leave directly, so I just had some breakfast at Ichiraku's, Naruto said. I don't care. Once you're here and that too on my request, you can't leave without tasting the best food around. Eat up, it's on me, Anko said. Naruto, sighing in defeat, sat opposite to the young woman and said, you know, I'm not very much into sweets. Ramen is much better. It's almost heavenly, with almost a dreamy drool on his face. Whatever. Your opinion won't be the same once you taste the real heavenly dish, Anko said with an equally dreamy face. Both the occupants straightened up as the shop owner told them that their order was ready and they could take it. Naruto got up to bring the plates before Anko could and uttered a thanks to the owner. Naruto started eating one of the dumplings while Anko waited to see his reaction. He closed his eyes in satisfaction, which clearly showed that he did like the dish a lot. This is delicious, Anko-san. Although I can't find it anyhow better than Ichiraku's ramen, it certainly is on my top 10 list, Naruto said. Anko frowned at the statement and said, oh, so what are the other 8 dishes then? Well, there isn't just one kind of ramen, Naruto said plainly. Anko couldn't hold her frown as it turned into a laughter after hearing that. Kami, you're a real ramen freak. But then maybe I'm a dango freak too. So let's finish up fast, then we have to go shopping too. Naruto was a bit put off by the way she had a hint of squeal in her voice, since why would a person exactly have excitement for a job as simple as shopping? But then again, judging from the loss she had him make the day before, anything could be possible. A few time skips later, Naruto was treading around breathing heavily with all the bags he had to carry while Anko was totally carefree. It seemed to him like she had eyes on literally everything present in the market. Hopping around from one store to another, she gave Naruto a hard time even tracking her. Anko, on the other hand, was having the fun of her life as she never had an opportunity to buy such large number of things in one go. It was a good thing Naruto held on to the money, else she would have hurled up every household item that looked either pretty or useful, but Naruto was only agreeing on the ones which were pretty useful. The large bulky ones had been ordered to be delivered directly at his home. He had to keep on a hinge all the time since he didn't want to be the target of hostility again. Anko, though, had no problem, since except for a few criminal elements around the town who harassed her in the past, who although were now scared of her, most of the people didn't seem to have any problem with her, unlike with him around where almost the whole village seemed to be hell-bent on somehow ostracizing him. He didn't let it bother himself, as he was happy that Anko didn't have to suffer in at least this way any longer. But at the moment he did want her to suffer, since he was the only one doing that while she was enjoying this chore in a way he didn't understand why. After doing all the shopping and probably roaming around the market for at least a few dozen times according to Naruto, they were finally at his home by evening. After resting for a few minutes, Anko explained to him exactly where what item would be used or placed. They were both working for an hour or so, after which Anko told him that she had to leave since it would take some time to reach home, and also that she had a mission to attend early the next day. "Well, kid, it was fun shopping around with you. Call me anytime again if you need," Anko said. "I'm sure I'd pass on that. And I really don't think anything would be left after what we got today. But yeah, I'd say it was fun hanging around with you," Naruto said. "Ah, come on, it couldn't have been that bad. Anyways, you can come to the training area and you know the location inside already. I'm available more at that place than my actual home outside," Anko said. "Oh, sure, I'll keep that in mind," Naruto replied. "You see, I'm not very much good at shopping and all like other girls, otherwise you'd be home in half the time and double the products," Anko said, giving him a warm smile and a light kiss on the cheek before she left. Naruto was a little embarrassed by the gesture but didn't mind it much, since he had been on the receiving end of quite a few of them every time both the ladies found him looking cute in the last few years, much to his annoyance. Placing a hand to wipe the sensation on his cheek, he said, "If other women are really even more capable of doing such tasks than her, maybe it's better not to engage with any one of them, or else I'll find my hands fallen down due to the stuff I've been carrying for hours before I could reach home." Time skip. Naruto was lying down comfy on his bed the night before his training was going to be started. He had prepared dinner shortly after Anko had gone, since he was quite tired and wanted to sleep badly 2 days ago. The day before, he had dedicated almost the whole day to managing and tidying up his home, since he didn't want any of these petty chores to be left after he had started training, since it would not let him concentrate or focus on the more important jobs. On the last day he had decided to just relax, as most probably the upcoming days wouldn't be so easy on him, and nor did he want them to. He was determined to work harder day by day until he reaches his goal. To become the Hokage and be acknowledged as well as respected not only in Konoha but the entire world. Now here he was looking at the ceiling fan in the darkness, wondering what his parents would have wanted him to be. He wasn't exactly pleased with himself, having his thoughts drifting off to his parents every now and then, but couldn't help it, as a part of him still wondered what would life had been if he was like any other child living a normal life with his family. It was only supplemented by the fact that starting tomorrow his life was taking another turn, as it would lead up to him becoming a shinobi and hopefully achieving his goal someday. Granted that he had come a really long way from 3 years ago and was happy that there were people who cared about him even if not his parents were. He didn't feel sad anymore, since the Hokage had at least told him that his parents didn't have any ill feelings towards him anyhow, but also frustrated since he hadn't gone into any detail after that. So, having all kinds of possibilities, he even wondered if they were shinobi or civilians, or that they liked shinobi or bore hatred against them, or if they would have accepted his decision of becoming a shinobi. But in the end he decided to push aside all the negative thoughts, since they were in the end going to create doubt on himself, and hope that they'd be proud of whatever type of person he became. Knowing that there's only moving forward and no looking back from the next day on, he fell into deep slumber, having high hopes of achieving his dreams one day.